All right, gentlemen and lady, we are live.
Oh God, save us all.
Yeah. So I'm doing this because I had an idea. You guys always have these like really engaging conversations about your ideas for the game. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of get your voices out there in the community and maybe open that up for discussion and people can comment and whatnot. So if you guys wouldn't mind, everybody kind of go around and briefly introduce yourself. Starting with Jabe.
My name is Jay Black. I have been playing this game since 1.0, but I took a hiatus from it when they started to have the subscription back in 1.0. I didn't know about the legacy status because I was starting school and I was kind of caught up in that. But once 2.0, I heard about it. I played the beta and got back into it. I started out as a Dragoon, got Dragoon up, and got to Titan, and that's when I started tanking. And so that's what I do in Raid, but I like to play all the jobs, and I have everything leveled. So I have some decent experience on everything. It's basically me in a nutshell.
All right. Well, hello. My name is Jin Woo. I go by Jin Woo, and I started playing the game around the end of 2.0, right around the final coil days. I wasn't really into it at the time, but I've heard so many good things about it, and then I got a friend from the military telling me, "Hey, you should probably join this game." And it's like, "Hey, sure, why not?" So, but most of the time, my experience was from Heaven's Word and so on. And then I started getting more serious about it during the creator days. Uh, Pretty much what I do in this game is the jobs I play are I consider myself to be a melee specialist. My worst one being ninja, of course, and but for the most part, my main job is playing monk. And when I'm not playing monk, I'm either doing something else on dragoon casually, or I play samurai, so I don't give a fuck when I'm doing my job. Other than that, I basically started getting more serious about the raid right around the ultimate times, and that's how I basically came across a couple of these people that I've known, and here I am. That's it.
That's a good bitch.
Yeah, shut up.
Dude, what? Oh my god.
So I am Toasty Rage. I've gone by a lot of different names in game, but fucking French Toast is probably the one that I'm mostly known for. I started in, I was a Sprout in Midas, and then I started raiding in Creator. And I've always kind of mained Astro. I've tried to main other things, and I've always just kind of gone back to Astro.
Sorry, you're up.
My name is Sora Bell on Genova. I also go by Snow. I've been playing the game for, I want to say, about 3 years now. I started at the very end of patch 3.1. So my first experience to raiding was Midas Savage. And I only actually did, I cleared 5 and I progged a little bit of 6 before just falling off. I didn't really give raiding a try again until Creator Savage, for one reason or another. I used to main Ninja back then, but I had ping issues and I just couldn't sustain myself. That was around the time where I had aspirations to be a better player. And so I switched to Summoner, and I had some fun with Summoner. I found that I enjoyed casting DPS a lot more than melee DPS. And when Red Mage was announced, that was kind of my calling card, right? So I played Red Mage throughout the entirety of the Stormbloods expansion for varying degrees of success. I'd like to think I did pretty well looking back. A little bit better in every tier. I recently started playing Astrologian very seriously. I don't really know what my game plan is For Shadowbringers, I'm going to try and do a little bit of both with multiple groups. But aside from that, I'm a pleasure to meet everyone.
Time to introduce our youngest member, Mama Cat.
Hello, I am Mama Cat. I mainly just go by Cat, or you can call me Mama if you want. Call me later. So I started playing this game about a year ago, about 2 weeks to a month before Stormblood came out, and after Stormblood came out, I got to 70, and then I basically quit the game for like 2 months because the one friend I started playing it with quit, and then a little while later, about 2 months later, I came back, and this was when I think Deltascape became unlocked, and then that's when I actually started raiding, and I'm like, damn, I really love raiding in this game. And then after that, I started to get better, and then the next tier, I started to actually try, and numbers were improving, and I just fell in love with the game even more, and I just love raiding in this game. And I play Dragoon, and I play a little bit of Paladin, but nothing in serious content. I want to level more classes, just because I've only been playing the game for like about a year, so just want to see what it all has to offer.
That will definitely come with time, for sure. And let's not forget about our favorite STD, Cypherus, the Scythe.
I ain't it.
The Scythe
I am
Rage.
not an STD. I am the Scythe Rage. Bite me. I'm Cypherus. Some of you may or may not know me from a very popular video. My calling card.
I thought it was Sif Eris, like, syphilis?
No, it's Scythe. Pronounced Scythe.
Okay.
If it was Sith, it was actually no. If you actually type it in, it's actually pronounced Scythe when you do PH. If it was F, it would actually be Sith.
I guess?
I think people call him Sif, ironically.
Sith, people call me Sith because English.
Tell us
English.
about yourself, Mr.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
So, I started playing this game since 1.0, and I stuck with 1.0 all the way through the hellish, disastrous. Let's not talk about it. Anyways, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm an avid Final Fantasy XI player. I tanked in Final Fantasy XI. I tank in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm a Paladin main, sword and board for life. I always been heavily into the raid scene. I like to challenge myself with the hardest content. I'm nitpicky. If you play with me, I expect you to play at my level. I ain't stooping down to yours. At the same time, I'm willing to teach people who want to learn, and then berate them when they fuck up. It's just how I roll. But in all seriousness, I've beaten every major raid tier within the time frame it's been out and relevant. Other than that, yeah, me, douchebag. Get used to it.
And I'm Reggie Rage. A lot of people know me as Regnus Belov. I recently did a name change. I started playing in A Realm Reborn. I thought about picking it up in 1.0, but the reviews kind of scared me away from that. So, I kind of stayed away. And then I saw that cinematic with Bahamut kind of just wrecking everything. And then I pre-ordered it after watching that cutscene. I started raiding with first coil. I wasn't, I was a pretty terrible white mage, I'd say. But over time I got better through Midas because I feel like the raids kind of do a good job of making you play smarter. So and I switched to Astrologian halfway through Heavensward, and then I switched to Scholar halfway through Stormblood, and I think I found my niche, and I think I'm gonna continue to be a shield healer through the next X pack, and I like to war, and I'm like Jabe. I like to play a little bit of everything, but I'm good with Scholar, War, and I dabble in like Summoner and Bard. So, and that's everybody. Most of us, this is a 7 out of 8 static. Our static is Misfortune, and we rated a lot through UCOB, We spent a lot of time doing that, and now that we've cleared that, we've kind of dialed it back a little bit. We went from raiding like 4 or 5 days a week to raiding 3 days a week. But that'll definitely pick up in Shadowbringers. So we're all looking forward to that, huh, fellas?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna die again.
So we recently
Progression will be interesting.
We recently had a fan fest that did show off. Well, it kind of gave us an idea of what the raid's called. Kind of got like a little was that fan art or something? And then they showed Tetsuya Nomura's boss, which that was kind of interesting. But
yeah, there wasn't a lot of belts there.
Yeah, it was. They're definitely holding a lot back for us. So I'd just like to kind of go around. We'll go in the same talking orders before. We'll start with Jabe. And, just give everybody a couple thoughts about FanFest, things that you liked, things that you didn't like, what are you hyped for, overall impressions. And then when we're done, we'll talk about kind of the community reaction in the North American side about the news that we got. So go ahead. Take it away, Jabe.
I mean, because I tank, Gunbreaker was a big deal for me being a tank in Raid. So I've always had a fond spot for Final Fantasy VIII. Like, some people don't like it, but that's all right, Squall was kind of I was like that. I was never emo, but I was at that stage where I could have been, when that game came out. And I identified with him a little bit because I was a little bit of a loner at that point. And so yeah, I'm down with Gunbreaker. That's going to be awesome. Hopefully it works out, pans out. I'm not sure which role I want it to be according to Yoshi P, whether it's main tank, off tank. We all know that main tank, off tank is, very transcendental. It's not a set thing. It's more like co-tanking, right? But so that was one thing. And honestly, the Hrothgar surprise was kind of interesting to me. I didn't find it negative. I just thought it was kind of interesting to see that we're gonna get like an actual bestial race. I've been thinking about like maybe turning one of my alts into a Hrothgar and doing that. And I'm really interested in the whole Warrior of Darkness aspect and the Raid Eden. And I'm also interested in the 24-man. Even though I haven't played Nier yet, I plan on playing it at some point before it comes out. Oh
man, play it now.
Yeah. When I have the time, I will.
Who has time to play games anymore?
Yeah, I work. I'm an adult. Sometimes I don't have time to do stuff. But yeah. Overall impressions, I think each fan fest was keyed to the audience pretty well, regardless of the different receptions in the different areas. I know a lot of people were mad about no Mel Vieira and no healer and stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like, it'll be all right. We'll be fine. So they didn't do it to specifically target anyone, so they did it in response to the feedback they were getting. So I'm interested to see how it all pans out.
What about you, Jin?
Honestly, after Stormblood, my expectations are kind of low on this one.
Really?
A little bit, because I kind of was hyped up for Stormblood, but it felt like, I don't know, I feel like their expectations were built up from Heaven's Ward because Heaven's Ward was such a good expansion. But then Stormblood came around and yeah. But
Heaven's Ward had its problems too, right?
Yeah, it had its problems. But Heaven's Ward came first, therefore Stormblood was not as fresh.
So would you say that? Do you feel like Heavensward kind of set the standard, and now it's kind of come off?
Yeah. I feel like, from what people tell me, they tell me that A Realm Reborn was more like the first one, and therefore was like the first try towards the entire community, and there were a lot of problems about that. By the time Heavenward Sword came out, I think that they just like standardized the entire content to make it seem that it appeals to both the hardcore raid scene and the more casual one.
Mhm.
And they just like they stuck to this scene. This is what they're gonna do for Stormblood because it worked, and therefore it didn't feel like anything new was there. It just felt like Heavensward, but Japanesey, you know?
Yeah,
They just changed the theme completely. I'm hoping they might prove me wrong. They probably might do the same thing because it just makes more money for them.
it's gonna be the same formula.
Yeah.
The thing is that it's been gradually improved. The formula has been gradually improved each time. That's what I've noticed each time,
Yeah.
even though it's the same.
There's a lot of fine tuning going on. Narratively speaking, I would say Heavensward is the stronger. And by narrative, I don't mean so much as the story. That's totally subjective. What I will say is that the pacing from Heavensward was spot on. It didn't really feel like it was dragging. There was a lot of tension in each of the patches. And so, as far as content went, Heavensward definitely struggled to find a leg to stand on. I would say Palace of the Dead, the Aquapolis, and I think those were the only two pieces of content that I would deem overall successful. Custom deliveries too, for Kafrik and others.
Godsend, yeah.
Yeah, but as far as Lords of Verminion, the Diadem, yeah, those, the fluff, I guess you could call it, when you're not looking directly at the raids. Heavensward had a lot of problems. Stormblood's content was a lot better, I think.
Wait, I got a question. Do you make MGP from playing Mahjong? Like crazy amounts of MGP?
I don't know. I've actually not played Mahjong yet.
Shit, we gotta do that, dude. At some point.
I've only played it a couple times.
All right.
Anyway, to wrap up my part. I am hype for the story. I actually want them to do something nice. This is actually the first time they've ever done something like this where the main character gets to turn to the dark side. I hope it's not fluffed up to be like this whole thing where like, I'm Batman or something like that. Like in the sense that I'm going to be like an anti-hero but sticking to my morals. I'm pretty sure it's gonna do the same thing, like on the moral side. But like, it would have been nice if I don't think they're gonna do this, but it would have been nice if like we like talk to the Asians. Like we need the Asians for this part of the story.
I don't think that's.
I know it's not gonna happen, but
I don't think that's where the story is taking us.
Yeah, I know.
If we do become Batman, are we going to be the Ben Affleck Batman or the Christian Bale Batman?
Well, Christian Bale Batman don't kill anybody, so we're totally being Ben Affleck Batman.
I mean, both of them are fine giving people brain damage.
I mean, the Dark Knight quest made it pretty obvious. Those who follow or meet the Warrior of Light end up dead.
I think any Batman is great so long
Pretty
as
much.
it's not George Clooney Batman.
I suppose.
Hey, Clooney admitted it. He made it Batman gay.
Batman nipples, man. The bat nips.
No,
Yeah.
that was Val Kilmer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I remember that. That was
Yeah.
Batman Returns. Or no, that was Batman Forever. Yeah.
Either way,
So many Batman movies.
I feel like if Shadowbringers does something right, I hope it's something new. I want it to be something like completely new to the story. It doesn't feel like a rehash of like Heavensward. Let it be something something unique for once. I think that's all I want to have for the hype and expectations on it. Who's next?
I will say before I pass the torch to Toasty is that I was worried. I was worried when we were going through the Stormblood patches that we're kind of like it kind of seemed like we were heading towards Ilsbard, right? Or like Garlemald, I guess.
Yeah.
But it kind of felt like that would kind of following that same Stormblood formula where we're like going in and like liberating people and yada yada. So I'm kind of, you know, I'm also kind of looking forward to maybe like a different story to tell. But anyway, I am curious to hear what was Toasty hyped for at FanFest.
From all the fan fests, I definitely would say that I'm probably most hyped about Dancer. And I know that I came with like a lot of negative feedback, but I think Dancer absolutely suits the ranged physical DPS more than anything. And while I do wish we had another healer to kind of like mix things up, I'm actually not disappointed, because as it stands, I do feel like at least Scholar and Astro are in an excellent place. It is a little unbalanced for, you know, white mages out there, but I do feel like as a whole, the two healer classes that are meta do work extremely well together. And I think partially I'm a little afraid that in this next expansion, things are going to get so mixed up, and I'm afraid they're going to start taking things away from Astro and Scholar to try and like balance the system, which is a little concerning. But
well, I should say, right, so if we look at how the healer balance played out in Heavensward, as far as healing came, White Mage was the stronger option all the way up until probably the tail end of Midas. And from that point on, Astrologian, after getting a ridiculous amount of buffs due to the fact that nobody was really playing the job and it was incredibly underpowered, it came in and sniped White Mage's position, which was fine, right? White Mage was very good for progression regardless. White Astro still had some kinks, though Disable was really broken back then.
I fucking miss Disable.
They definitely, they
He's a
definitely did a decent job of closing the gap that was so big from Heavensward for healers. So the problem is, going back to what you said, you were worried that they were going to take away from Astro in a Scholar and give to White Mage to help it out more, is that that's what they did to White Mage at Stormblood, right? At Stormblood's release. You know, Lucid Dreaming used to be, I believe, Divine Seal or Shroud of Saints, one of those abilities.
That was actually a role action thing. So what we actually had as Astros before was actually better MP management than what we got in Stormblood.
That's true, but White Mage didn't get anything in return for that. You know, there was no alternative skill for all the skills that were originally theirs. They essentially had to go back in the role actions to get skills they had before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that
5.
being a problem at the start of the expansion when we could only have 5 cross-class skills. I mean, like, or role abilities. I can see how that's an issue, but now that we have 10, like, that's just a non-issue. So,
I mean, it's really bad when in the job showcase for Stormblood, Rescue was in White Mage's portion of it, even though all 3 of them can use it.
Yeah, that's true. They did showcase the role ability.
Yeah, so they definitely.
I mean, at the same time, like Astro technically had a version of largesse before, and that was Sinistry, and they just took away that aspect of Sinistry and made it.
Sinistry and largesse don't do the same thing, right?
No, back in Heavensward, Sinistry was basically a largesse with an added benefit, which was
but it only
the
worked
link between 2.
But it only worked on one person, right?
No, largesse increased your healing for everything.
Yeah, that's what it does, but Sinistry only on one target.
No, largesse had an added effect back in Heavensward where it increased all of your healing on everything.
There was no largesse in Heavensward.
Okay.
No,
so if it's okay, I think so. Sinistry actually had it actually increased your healing potency. Like it was called Divine Seal, I think, back in the day. So that was actually Astrologian's Divine Seal was Sinistry, and yeah, it did basically it increased your healing potency, but it also, whoever you put Sinistry on, they were getting like, what was it, like a quarter extra heals, like a third extra, something like that.
It still does that, but only on one target. They took away your healing potency overall from Sinistry.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The thought of like we had the same things, they were just mishmashed in Stormblood and put into role abilities rather than everybody having their own kind of like niche skill. But yeah. Anyway, my whole point is like I think honestly the devs really fucked up when they reduced Astro's cast time for Malefic, but it is amazing. I
don't think that was a bad change, right? Well, no, that was a great change. It was a change that needed to happen. I think if they reduced Astro's potency by like Malefic 3's potency by like 20 potency, maybe 30, it would have evened out.
I'm not so concerned about the potency changes, though. What I'm concerned about is they're going to take away that amazing cast time that allows us to like basically not clip anymore.
I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think they're going to do that.
If anything, the healers are moving. Yeah. It was fundamentally a problem that created a higher skill ceiling for Astrologian. The better Astrologians knew that clipping was inevitable, but it was how you clipped and where you clipped that would determine how successful you were during it. I don't think that's something a philosophy they liked, considering what they did to Berserk and how Berserk and Inner Release and how they're streamlining the jobs and their core rotation. I think this is a change that's here to stay. If anything, I think the other two healers will find more smooth methods of incorporating off global cooldowns into their rotation without reducing their overall damage as a result. Like White Mage has a massive problem with that. Scholar does too, but it's not as bad. The one thing that Astrologian got that was probably way stronger than they originally intended was making collective unconscious instant.
Yeah, that's true. But that was such like a quality of life change that we absolutely needed overall. It's not just Astro, but
it made it the difference is collective unconscious is probably the most broken healing ability in the game. It applies 10% mitigation and one of the most potent regens, and now you can use that ability on the entire party and an off global cooldown space every 90 seconds. White Mage doesn't have anything close to that. It's far too good.
I think the buffs, like, it does the same thing for Scholar's Bubble. It does the same thing for Paladin's Wings. Like, I think the instant application was absolutely neat.
But there's cost and trade in those scenarios, right? So Scholar has to choose between an energy drain and using a Sacred Soil. If the Sacred Soil is absolutely necessary, you have to use it. But the Sacred Soil doesn't regenerate MP. It just keeps you alive for the 1 or 2 hits that you needed it. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
For White Mage, you have Asylum, which only regenerates HP. It doesn't actually mitigate any damage. And
if you're standing in it.
If you're standing. And it's not even that big, to be completely honest. It's actually rather small. And they don't have the same off-global cooldown space as Astrologian, right? They have Arrow 2 in between, which is every 18 seconds they can apply something without any sort of loss, and then Swift Cast. So that just doesn't even compare to how busted Collective Unconscious is, right? That's the fact that you can even extend the regen is even worse, because sometimes it's just more viable to extend the Collective Unconscious regen and an aspected benefit and just leave the tank to their own devices. You don't even need it for the 10% mitigation, but it's there, right? It's like in progression, it makes the skill infinitely more better, because in progression, Astrologian had to rely on cards like the Bowl and the Ewer to make the difference, but they were RNG cards. You couldn't necessarily you couldn't directly influence the way you wanted the fight to play out through mitigation purposes. But with the changes to Collective Unconscious, not only can you still do that, but you can still influence it, right? If we had this current iteration of Astro versus Neo X-Step, oh man,
Yep.
Almagest would have not been as bad for Astrologian as it actually was. So it's a big change. Astrologian is definitely overtuned right now. It does need to be pulled back in some places. I just don't know how though, right? So we could theoretically pull back off Astrologian, but in this case, I think it might just be better to raise White Mage up.
Yeah,
Give them-
exactly.
Give them the off global cooldown space they need, and I would just buff Asylum to be a nearly identical but weaker version of Collective Unconscious.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree that White Mage should be better than Astrologian and Scholar in optimized play.
What
I'll
it
get into
should
that.
be, though, is better at healing, but it always loses the torch to Astro because
Well,
Astro
it
has
is.
so much OGCD and the added benefit of cards. Like, you probably like. I can see how White Mage would be a benefit in things like UCOB. I can absolutely see how it would be a benefit, but at the same time, it's a little slower to prog with Astro and Scholar, but not by much, especially if you have classes that are skilled and know what they're doing. You know,
Beyond world progression, it does not matter. In world progression, I would start with a White Mage just because it's more efficient to do so. It's more practical, I should say. And that's even fight dependent, right? Because Astrologian's just better than White Mage in certain fights. It's really only Final Omega. I think the rest White Mage could do just fine. As far as White Mage versus Astrologian healing, if we're talking about raw healing and what both jobs are capable of, White Mage wins hands down. There really isn't much to talk about. The reason why that's not very much of a good metric for the situation that both healers are in right now is because there are two golden rules that the dev team has stood by for since the beginning of 2.0. One, all jobs must be able to clear content. It does not matter what the job is, it has to all be able to clear the most difficult content in the game in any composition. Yes, that means you can clear UCOB with your Samurai, Bard, Black Mage, and Machinist comp if you want to. It'll be hard and it's completely unlikely that you should do it, but you can do it. The second and more critical problem here is that because all jobs should be able to clear content, all healers compositions have to be able to do it too, which means that the value of being able to heal very easily it's hard to give value to Cure 3, which would be White Mage's most potent ability in this case. Or for lack of a better word, if we were to define White Mage's entire healing kit and its full potential in just the ability Cure 3, encapsulating everything in that, Cure 3 cannot be required to clear content. They cannot make a piece of content that says you must use Cure 3 to pass this heal check. Because Astrologian and Scholar do not have Cure 3.
They did in Midas, technically. I mean, A8S was a goddamn nightmare. You needed to have a White Mage in order to clear that in rate.
But it wasn't that you needed to have a White Mage. It was that Astrologian was just incredibly underpowered then.
It really was.
It was really bad at that
Frog,
point.
it's really underpowered.
Yeah, no, I did.
No,
Gordius.
like,
I did. I cleared Gordius
Wait,
and
wait.
Midas. And Gordius, you had to do so much extra work just to make sure that your Astro could heal you, and it was the same problem in Midas. The problem in Midas was the range of Astro's heals was far too short to actually cover the distances you needed to go, especially in A8S, because you had to separate the party constantly. Like, one person was always in one corner, someone was in another corner, someone was over here, someone was over there.
But that's not exactly what I'm saying, right? It's true. But what I mean when I say that Cure 3 cannot be required to clear content is that White Mage you cannot say I must have White Mage to clear this fight, because that directly conflicts with the first rule, which is all jobs can clear any piece of content in any comp. regardless of how optimal it is for them to do so. This means not only does Astro and Scholar have to be able to clear each fight, so does every other healer they ever add, which means you cannot give value to the ability to essentially overheal, right? Because that's what we're talking about. If these two jobs can heal with do the fight with less healing than White Mage, then White Mage being able to do more of it is irrelevant when these two jobs have things to offer that offset the balance. Like, for example, the Ewer in a progression is phenomenal. The Bowl in progression is ridiculous. Spread Bowls, 10% AoE to everybody. Solo Bowl, 20%. Enhanced Solo Bowl, 30%. It's absurd that Astro has just so much versatility that White Mage just doesn't compare to right now.
So, what you're trying to say, Sora, is that you're glad that Dancer's not a healer. Is that what we're getting in this FanFest summary
Don't
section
care. Okay.
right now?
Same.
I don't care whether or not Dancer is a healer at all. It could have been Chemist, it could have been Geomancer, it could have been my left toe. I don't care whether
Big
or not
left toe,
Dancer.
huh?
Yeah. I don't care whether or not Dancer was a healer. It's the fact that we didn't get a new healer that I'm perfectly okay with. I think that their decision to change the way healers operate and determine the values by which you can heal a piece of content it's just a better decision, right? Because off global cooldown heals are just far too powerful. And when off global cooldowns are too powerful, it means global cooldown heals are weaker. This means an ability, because Earthly Star and Indomitability exist, Cure 3, regardless of how powerful it is worse by comparison. And it's the reality. It's not even down to the fact that you could get damaging GCDs versus the Cure 3 GCD. It's the fact that it's just MP efficient to not cast Cure 3 because of how much MP that skill costs, versus an Astral Scholar, which could heal for virtually the same amount, but for significantly less MP, and the significantly less MP just happens to do damage too. It's kind of crazy. It feels like White Mage is a relic of an older game right now, and I don't think they had a lot of ways to move it in a new direction. Whereas Astro and the Scholar are just I would say Astrologian more so than Scholar is just cutting edge in modern technology. It's the future of healing. It's ridiculous.
I think I don't think that the
them.
balance excuse is kind of I don't feel like it was reason enough to say that we're not getting a healer though. Because there's many different things they could try when it comes to White Mage. They could boost their healing potencies, they could boost their DPS potencies, give them
how
an
much
OGTB,
how
AoE
much
shield.
how much
It's not that. The problem is they've geared Scholar and Astro for off GCD healing, which frees up their GCDs to constantly roll for DPS.
They
White
are
Mage
That's
doesn't.
fine, but there's enough.
No, that's not fine. There is no reason that an entire instance should be off GC healed without any input from the other healers.
He's right.
Healing is supposed to be an active job, which means you need to keep your GCDs rolling to keep the party alive. The fact that Astro and Scholar can do this without having to use the GCD at all, and it's been proven that some groups don't even have to use a single GCD heal to survive an encounter, means that there's something actively wrong with the balance between Astro and Scholar being able to do this.
It's very rare that a co-op group of Astro and Scholar will go through a fight without ever actually using a healing GCD. You know, Adaloquium for deploy still counts as a healing GCD. It's just the very small amount of them, right? Is you could get through an entire chaos with no cast of Sucker and no cast of Helios. You don't need any cast of a Spectre Helios. You just need to know how to use your Earthly Star, Collective, Whispering Dawn, and you only really need to deploy for Earthquake, one of the two Earthquakes, depending on your strategy, right? Whereas a white mage, that's just not possible because they don't have the off global cooldown space to do that. And yeah, you could give white mage the off global cooldown space, and off global cooldowns to handle the fights in a very similar fashion. But if Astrologian is still too strong, then who's going to play white mage? I mean, like, it can do it now, right? So who's to say, like, making it a little better will do anything if White Astro has to be able to do it too? The healers just need a niche, and they can't have one. And that's
we're gonna see what happens when Shadowbringers come out. I mean, all this is good and relevant to the raid conversation, but at the same time, it's about to change. So, like, we'll see how they change it, because it's not like they just decided, hey, we're going to change this now. They decided this over a year ago, what they're going to start doing to change the healers. And so what we need to, because we're going to see the battle system changes before the expansion. I believe that's a thing that's happening in May. So we got to wait till May to see what they do. And then we can really be like, all right, I'm pretty sure what they're doing is they're reconfiguring how the healers are going to play. So, and because they're doing that,
it's not that they're realizing that having a dedicated shield healer and a dedicated regen healer skews the balance greatly. It really does. They're not like tanks. They're not like tanks where tanks share responsibilities and they can do one or the other. An Astro is only a shield healer, or not an Astro Scholar is only a shield healer. A White Mage is only a regen healer. They don't have any way of intersecting into each other's path. You can't expect.
Okay, so sorry to cut you off. That's not entirely correct, right? So when you go through a fight, it's not about whether or not I'll need this shield healer, this shield here, or I'll need this regen here, right? It's all about what's the most efficient and what gives me the most value. And that can be dependent entirely on who has what at what time in their kit. For example, after Hello Worlds 1 or 2, where the party is just taking a lot of damage from the Ion, Scholar has Whispering Dawn, which is a free off-global cooldown regen, right? That they can just throw up and just gradually work the party up. Or depending on your star map, Astrologian can just throw down Earthly Star, top up the entire party, including get your tanks ready for the next target analysis that's coming afterwards. So it's not entirely about who's bringing the shields, who's bringing the regions. In fact, there are some strategies where bringing Nocturnal, Astro, and Scholar just proves to be more effective. For example, Neo XDEF, it's debatable, but I do think that composition would have worked very well in Neo XDEF, given that there are a lot of pauses between damage in that fight, and there are no significant auto attack damage there, and Chaos, because there's so much AoE damage, and Nocturnal Astro shields are just better on average than a Scholar shield. Like, Scholar shields are only stronger than Nocturnal Astro shields when they're at a Loquium deploy. If not for that, and it's even just more GCD efficient, right? Because Broil 2 does 230 potency, Malefic 3 does 220. So it's more damage to have the Astro and Scholar both go shield in that scenario, and then have the Astro do the shields. So
what's the bottom line you're trying to drive to? Because we've been spending a lot of time on this conversation. So
that healing isn't so black and white like tanks. The cooldowns allow healers to do a lot more, and the value given to those healers will always determine what is better than the other. White Mage's skills don't really have cooldowns like Astros and Scholar, but their value are lower because they come at the expense of damage. So unless White Mage gets similar to Astro or Scholar, or the value of GCDs increase, we're never really going to get out of this issue. Tuning up the damage may help, but if Astro and Scholar still have to be able to clear the content, and if they're designed to still be able to do it without using GCEs, then we're still in this exact same problem.
So I this conversation is actually it's amazing. And I'm loving all the input that I'm getting from people who they take raids so seriously, and career healers. But it's funny, before we even started this, I actually was talking to Jabe in chat, and I was just like, I'm going to do everything I can to avoid the healer conversation, because we could pretty much talk about that all night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, and I would like to come back to this, but I still would like to hear Toasty. Do you have any other thoughts you want to add to the Fan Fest before we move on to Sora's thoughts and to Sif's thoughts? Sif, sorry.
Mainly just excited for Dancer and to see what kind of synergy they're going to bring to the group. I would like to see Dancer as a new meta class. I'd really enjoy that, but I guess we'll just have to kind of wait and see what they say at the next live list.
Oh, hold on a second. I don't mean to throw you under the bus, Toasty Rage, but why don't you tell everybody what you're really excited about?
Fucking Vieira!
Oh, bunny thoughts. Joy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We all know Toasty's thoughts, so.
They're all.
Excuse me, sir.
Hey man, she's in a stable relationship.
Yeah,
Give her.
dude.
Give her some room.
Sounds
Don't
good.
insult you. All right, Sora.
Vieira are hot though. I will
What
say
are your
that.
They
thoughts on-
were designed to be sexual.
Yeah, just give us, tell us some things you liked, some things you didn't like. What are you most hyped for?
I love the trailer so much. The Final Fantasy III song that comes at the end is just, Eternal Wind. I absolutely adore that rendition of it with the Shadowbringers theme in the background. I'm happy more so for Ronso than Vieira. Vieira, I don't really have much interest in that, and I'm probably not gonna play Ronso either. But I loved Final Fantasy X, and just last night, in our Discord, I sent them a link to the fight, or Kimari versus Biran and Yenke.
Oh yeah.
In Mount Galgazet from Final Fantasy X, because
That was a hard fight if you didn't know what you were doing.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he was a blue mage, though. You could just steal all their skills,
Yeah.
just body them. It was great.
I just remember having a hard time in that fight for like 3 times, and then I finally got lucky.
Mm-hmm. So I really hope to see some Final Fantasy X love more. It's probably my favorite of all the Final Fantasies.
Boo.
Shut up.
I knew Sid was gonna say
You're
it.
showing how young you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I played the other ones. I just like 10 more. What? God.
I don't know why. I don't know how anybody liked 10 so much. It started the whole. Because it started the whole linear corridor bullshit.
But there was nothing wrong with it because it opened it all up to you at the end. 13
No,
didn't do that.
The only
Yeah,
thing
it
that
did.
was open to you was freaking the Calmlands, and that was the only open sports. Everything
No,
else was
was
just
it?
a fucking corridor from one end of the area to
At
another.
least you could go through those corridors, right? At the end of the game, where you got the airship, you can go through all of them.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that in 13.
Yes, you could. Yes, you could.
That's
You can't
all
do that in 13.
Yes, you can. I mean,
No, you
okay.
can't.
Okay.
13, you can only go to Eden, Grand
Okay.
Pulse, and Orphan's
Okay,
Cradle.
until you get to chapter 13, which was the orphan episode, then you can go back and do things in.
Yeah, but you can't actually go to the other maps.
You
You're
can't
stuck.
go to anywhere before.
But then again, why would you
Grand
want to go to
Pulse.
the other maps? Like, there's no
Because
towns in that
they're-
game.
13 looks beautiful. It's the most beautiful looking Final Fantasy
It
game
really
to this
is.
day. Like,
It really
uh,
is.
15, sure, whatever. I don't care. I'd play Grand Theft Auto if I wanted to play that. But
All
sorry,
right.
I don't really like.
Okay. Back to FanFest.
Back to Madness.
Fuck FanFest. This is now a war of Final Fantasies.
Mama Cat is next, right?
Yeah, Mama
Or-
Cat, our youngest member. He's had very little experience with this game and FanFest. Mama Cat, tell us what spit that shit. I don't know if I can say it.
Give me a second.
What
I
are
was
you,
eating.
fucking black?
I was eating.
So, I watched the FanFest, pretty happy, new content coming out, especially like how they're presenting it, where it's like a panel, like almost like any other you go to like a PAX or something, and it was just pretty exciting seeing everything coming out because literally everyone's watching it there, like looking forward to the future of Final Fantasy XIV. And a lot of people were pissed off about the about it not being a healer class, but I mean, like, when you look at it, physical or ranged had the least amount of diversity, only two, and one of them being an absolute dumpster fire, just like White Mage.
And they're both incredibly
No,
profitable.
to be fair, White Mage isn't a dumpster fire. It's just the other two are that much better than it.
I mean,
Yeah.
by comparison, that can still mean it's a dumpster fire then, because it's not
I
as
mean-
good.
No, because
No.
Machinist is literally a dumpster fire.
I love it.
It's a dumpster
It is
fire.
the most least played
Explodey
job in the
things.
entire game.
I would
Well,
say
that doesn't
overheating.
It is, but it's
Dumpster
mostly because people
Flamethrower.
are kind of intimidated by the class. and
One at a
you have to
time.
Overheat. You have to overheat into wildfire. I mean, it's just intimidation.
She's right. A lot of people don't even know what's wrong with Machinist. They're like,
Mhm.
wildfire is so hard, and I'm like, no, it's not. Right? You just put it
Really
on the
is
No,
not.
bottom.
no, it's not
It
that
sits there for
wildfire is
10
hard. It's just, I don't know. It's like
What?
you said,
What
the
is-
class
what
is
is
boring.
wrong
No,
with
no.
Machinist?
You said the
Specifically.
class is boring between wildfires. I don't play the class, so I only taken what you
I
said.
mean,
was
tanks
wrong.
are boring between like their big stuff too. It doesn't change anything. Any DPS can be boring in between the stuff you're waiting for, right?
Not really.
It's
Yeah,
not
I
like
mean-
we're getting in the hit in the face the whole time.
So
Yeah.
So back
Mama Cat.
back to what Mama Cat was saying. He expressed that he's pretty hyped for Dancer, and I think Toasty is also said that she's really hyped for Dancer. I'm just curious, like, what are you hype about specifically?
If you're, to be honest, since I only played melee right now, I want to play another like ranged or maybe a caster. Actually, I don't really like casters, but
Hey,
fuck
you.
I'm sorry. Cast times what? So I want to.
Yeah,
I kind of
Heaven's
want to
word
play
bard.
another.
that's why you got
I
like
wanna-
200 intelligence. I got 2,500.
And what
I wanna
about
play a different class so I can get like a different perspective on how they raid and how like they fit into the party comp and stuff.
and
Range?
Well, yeah, how ranged fit in. Like, I mean,
They're
they
either
just,
broken or they're
stand
not.
there.
Or they're underpowered.
This is the entire concept of ranged. I can hit from anywhere.
Yeah.
I
For
mean,
example.
like, if we look at the game's history, right, ranged physical DPS have either been, like, incredibly overpowered or incredibly underpowered. They've never really been properly balanced, right? The most broken DPS in this expansion, hands down, is Bard. One of the most underpowered DPS in this expansion.
I
hands
have
down,
the-
is Machinist.
I have the Alphascape Savage statistics right here. So guess how many Bard parses?
There's over 32,000 bard parses.
Yeah, but so this is for what's it called? These are what's it called? So there's 15,000. Okay. Guess how many Machinist parses there are?
2.
Less than 1% of that.
No, it's 5 times. So Machinist is only 3,700.
Yeah.
Literally almost 5 times the amount. It's kind of crazy how like the disparity is. And I feel that if they balance Machinist to a point, and then they also make it to where they're all 3 of these new ranged physicals are on somewhat equal terms, I feel like most classes in this game will then have like not a consistent like play rate, but more than it is already.
When you say
Wait,
balance, you mean streamlined, because Bard is pretty streamlined and Machinist is just kind of.
Well, I don't know much about Machinist, but isn't its rotation just built on a 1-minute burst?
Yeah, Machinist's rotation is the most streamlined. The problem
Yeah,
is,
I was gonna say.
streamlined, where if you can't
Well,
deviate
when I
from
say
it-
streamline, I mean things lead into each other. Like
Yeah.
Bard songs lead into each other, literally.
Machinist's rotation, I mean, it lead like flamethrower is 60-second cooldown, wildfire is a 60-second cooldown. You can overheat at the end of a.
Everything is honestly brilliantly timed when it comes
Yeah.
to Machinist.
Nothing is
For
on a weird
Machinist
time.
itself.
It's
The problem
15,
is
30, 60, 120. It's perfect.
So if you're good at keeping time and you're good at keeping track of all your cooldowns, then it's easy for you to play. But if you're not, then it's not.
You struggle with Bard too, though, right? I mean, Mage's Ballad
Well-
and Pitch Perfect procs, especially in Mage's Ballad, you have to be on the time on your like.
It's
But
more
for the-
reactionary than time, though. So it's just kind
no,
of
it's time. There's
You
There-
could
Bard
miss
Bard
the-
procs.
you could miss Mage's Ballot procs if you're not on that.
Yeah, you
In
got to
between
be on top of
DPD.
those.
So,
You got to
true.
also make sure, you got your Imperial Aerial coming up, that's going to proc your song.
I
as
think the
well.
most interesting thing for me on the subject of ranged physical DPS is where they stand in balance, right? It always felt like that they got a pass and were just allowed to just be better than other races, not races, other jobs and roles, because there was two of them, and the fact that their synergy was just multiplicative, right? So casters, aside from Summoner and Magic Contagion, which came in Stormblood, Black Mage and Summoner and Heavensward didn't play nice together. Red Mage and either of the casters technically don't play nice together, because even though Red Mage and Black Mage can take from Summoner, they don't give anything back to it. So it's still one-sided, right? But Bard and Machinists don't have this issue. Everything they do can either stack, or if it doesn't stack, it's just really good to have two of them. Refresh being the obvious, I guess, skill to name, right? Refresh is probably the best skill in the entire ranged kit, just because of what it does, right? Giving MP to your healers, and if you have a caster, is just invaluable unless it's a Black Mage. So with three of them now, that could potentially mean 3 jobs that can hit from anywhere, which means all 3 of them will have no difficulty doing mechanics. 3 jobs whose buffs might actually stack together with each other. All 3 of them are confirmed to have utility. Well, we don't know if Machinist might lose its utility, but I doubt Bard is using its utility, right? That's the point of singing your songs. And they've already confirmed Dancer will have some utility. So if this utility can stack with Bard and Machinist, all 3 of them can hit from anywhere. All 3 of them have access to refresh, assuming the cross-roll skills stay the same in that way. I don't know, but that sounds like a nightmare for casters and maybe even melee. Because Dragoon will just go.
Well, no, because with the changing of the way they're working with TP and MP, they might have to change the cross rolls themselves.
A lot of things are gonna change eventually.
I think they're realizing that.
Dancer do again?
We haven't confirmed if Dancer's piercing or not.
They just have throwing weapons.
If it's piercing, it's probably going to be a.
I'm pretty sure. I thought they said slashing.
Nope.
No,
they said
they
throwing
didn't.
weapons.
They didn't say anything. It could be.
They never gave a specific.
If it's piercing, I assume that it might honestly just be for like the ranged slots, and I'm talking all ranged slots, would probably just be Bard and Dancer if they stay on the line that they are now, at least for Bard, because Bard's just kind of
the thing they have to do is they have to tone down like how much support range DPS can give out to the party, especially the stacking support, which is a little ridiculous.
Either that or buff the support that casting DPS can provide.
I don't know if they gave range.
Truthfully, as long as there's no overlap, right? There's no reason to take double caster over a ranged and a caster, or double ranged over a ranged and a caster. Then I think we're fine here, right?
Yeah.
Role diversity is pretty much all I'm advocating for, because I sat through those days of being a caster during Heavensward Creator, and it was not pretty. Bard and Machinist dominated, and even in early Delft Escape before Summoner received its buffs, those 2 jobs were just a force to be reckoned with.
I mean, even if you go into like, let's just go for Chaos. Most of the like top like 20 parses, I guarantee you, all of them have a Bard in them. Literally every single one.
Be right back.
There's no group that doesn't run a Bard right now, because the support DPS that Bard brings is higher than the personal DPS that Machinist brings.
And just by that logic, they obviously have a Dragoon too. So there's already 2 classes that are basically locked to being those 2. And then there's only like 6 other slots that can be like mediated to other classes that aren't like, you need these to be able to get like a good kill time. Especially if you're going for like
Astrologian.
Well, okay, that too. That's obvious, but well then obviously you got to say Scholar too, because Chain.
Yeah, we can just start going down the list.
Yeah, I feel like that's a problem in this game.
Because if you have a Bard, you want your crit buffs, right?
Specifically, what's a problem?
That's
That- yeah, I-
No. The problem
That's definitely a
is
problem.
how much party buffs outweigh personal, like
skill.
just personal damage and skill.
Yes. I
Like-
feel that's a big
But
problem in today's world.
So the thing is that it is a party-centric game. So if you have
But
jobs that
they-
synergize with each other, that's kind of the point. The problem is that
It's the
people
same.
get
like,
upset
seven.
when
No,
their
no,
No, but, yeah, but no,
job-
it's fine that happens, but people are in a
It's the
mentality
same
that you
seven,
need
right?
it to clear. Like,
right,
like
right. That's
can't
what I'm
beat-
saying. People
especially
are
in the TF people, all of them praise no dupes, but in reality, you can clear content with 4 of the same DPS. Just
Depends on the content. You can't do that in Ultimate.
That's what I'm saying. Savage. In Savage,
Yeah.
it's completely doable.
With gear, yeah.
I just think that people harp too much upon how much, you need this job. But at the same time, like, the meta is the meta. You have to accept the meta. If you don't want to do the meta, don't do the meta.
I think the meta is
But-
too.
The meta
catered
only
to
exists-
Don't expect to be in a hardcore group. That's,
Yeah, well, the meta only exists for people wanting to be in, like, the top percentile of their classes. But then the mentality bleeds down to the people that PF all of their stuff saying, oh, we need this comp because the best players in the world that's what they're clearing with. When in reality, it's not that they're on that class, just their individual skill is enhanced by what the class offers about being together with other classes. In reality, you can clear literally anything with literally any comp.
You don't know how many times I looked at a PF and saw a lone bard sitting in there with the
slot locked dragoon
and scholar just
Mhm.
sitting there.
And I think that's a problem.
That's
with
their
it.
right, though. That's how
It
they
is.
want to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
It is, but it's still a problem being that they want
Three,
it.
it's just. Do you
and
think
then
it's okay
they'll
that
complain
3
when they don't
jobs
get
have
it.
an unhealthy synergy like that though? Like
No,
woefully unhealthy.
I mean, I think it's the dev's job to make it better, but at the same time, if one job is underpowered, then it's underpowered, and you're gonna have to deal with it until it's fixed.
But what happens when like a job is so overpowered that it obviously slots in 2 other jobs that are arguably overpowered in their own right?
You
Then-
can think of it this
And
way.
you
If
sit back and wait till it's not. That's all you could do.
If you think of it this
It's
way,
just-
if
You're right though. You're right. But if we look at, even though they're technically meta for 2 different reasons, right? In Heaven's Ward and Stormblood, those same 3 jobs were meta in both expansions.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing this game and you're playing it to raid, you level multiple jobs so that you can play optimally. So if you're not playing it to play at the highest tier raid, then you don't care. So
And
if
your
your
comp doesn't
job's
matter.
if your job's underpowered, guess what? You know what you do? You find you a nice FC that's social, and you go and play with them, and then they clear content together, even though it takes them months after it's relevant.
Fair point. I can't argue that.
All right, I'm back.
You heard it here, Jay Black.
if you fill into this category, Echo has just come out for you.
It did.
You are
100%.
I mean, people are gonna rate on the jobs that they want, right? I mean,
Yes.
I'll be honest. When I, knowing for a fact that it would be better for me to switch to Scholar, I spent half of this expansion raiding in a White Mage Astrologian comp because I couldn't, for the life of me, get a Scholar to raid with me, and after playing at that level for so long, where it was just like, it was a constant. You kind of feel bad because you're missing out on the OCG healing and the fairy and all that stuff. I made that switch and decide to go at that advanced level of play. But we were still clearing content, but yeah, it sucked. I'm the king of exaggeration, right? I guess it was like painting a old woodshed with like one of those nail polish. Good one, Bib. But But yeah, so speaking of which, we've actually gone like way over our time. We're actually almost about to be like a half hour into this. And I would like to keep the conversation going, but maybe we can just kind of put it on the side for a little bit, then we can reconvene Thursday. I think we hit a lot of good points. Like I wanted to talk about Dancer, and I wanted to talk about the like the predictions for the meta, and you guys kind of rolled into that without me having to really coach you guys, so that was good. And there was a lot of expressions about how it was felt about being a ranged DPS. Personally, I'm a tactics fiend. I love tactics, and I was happy that it was a DPS. I was a little disappointed at first that we didn't get another healer, but when I woke up the next day after kind of thinking about it and mulling it over, it just it means I get to kind of like concentrate on Scholar more and just getting better at that job. But really quickly, I'd just like to go through everybody really quick and just like, a 1 out of 10. Give me your hype for Shadowbringers, starting with Jabe.
I would say I'm probably about 8.5, somewhere in there. Like, I'm not too hyped, but at the same time, like, I know the quality is going to increase even though it's incremental, and I know the formula is going to stay just about the same. I'm still looking forward to it. Even though I can kind of though the predictions are kind of been thrown out the door, because everybody thought we were going to heal her, we're not. Everybody thought we were going to get Mel Vieira, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
People thought we were going to go back in time. No, we're just going to another shard. So, or I mean time travel or whatever, not necessarily going back, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to how everything pans out.
Okay, Jan, what's your hype level? 1 out of 10, or I'm sorry, 1 to 10.
1 to 10. I want to say for now it's a 7 with a pessimistic outlook, but I want it to be a 9, meaning I want it to like, what's the word or the expression?
Exceed your expectations.
I want it to pull the rug under my feet. Yeah, pretty much, and I hope they do something well with it. In terms of like the class or the races themselves, I think they're fine. I don't think people need to be so upset over the whole gender locking on the whole thing. I'm pretty sure there were 2 races that were gender locked in the past, and they catered to their demands, and just chill out. Like
It was Ro and Cat, I think.
yeah, Mikode and Rogadin. I don't know why the Ronso or the Hrothgar don't have a female race, but I think it's...
If you watch Mr. Happy's interview with Yoshi P, there is a very good answer.
I have an answer.
I just know that there was a female.
Fuzzy titty.
Oh my God.
All right.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of going too far. Yeah.
Not wrong. This is taking a sharp turn.
But
Can you imagine that,
anyway, I want to sweep the rug under my feet and tell me that's going to be a better game or a better story than it currently is.
I'm gonna change to High Hrothgar and be Daddy Cat now.
And I think next week we will go into the MSQ and talk about predictions and how we're feeling about the story. We'll do that next week. That'll be a good conversation.
I'll be down for that. Anyway, next in line.
7 out of 10. All right, Toasty. What's your number?
I would say I'm probably about a 9. I'm a little over optimistic, mainly because I am a sinful cutscene skipper. So
Amen.
I don't really know much about the story in terms of like I know what's going on recently, but in the past I can't really like recall certain events because I don't fucking know what happened. But I'm pretty optimistic. I think the fights are going to be beautiful. I think the areas are going to be beautiful. I mean, the Crystarium was gorgeous. I'm really looking forward to the aesthetics of the expansion.
Sora.
I'm about a 7, maybe 6.5 out of 10. I don't know. And I hate to be the one that plays the devil's advocate, but I've yet to see anything that's leading me to think this just won't be, a different skin for the same thing. We've been getting since Heaven's Ward. I'd really like something to spice things up a little bit. The new 24 man has me kind of excited. So
Oh yeah, I forgot to say anything about that.
Oh,
we'll see.
I am
24
interested
man
also-
and the 8 man are both very
Yeah.
mysterious at this
Yeah,
point.
I'm also interested on Eden. Like, what are they gonna do with that? Wonder how long
Eden was
Tiffany
a
Moore's gonna
summon
make its way.
as well. Eden was a summon. What was it? FF8?
Yep, it was the
Yeah.
final summon you extracted from Ultima.
Dude, that was like a
Also-
2.5 minute fucking cutscene just to get to the damage part of that whole summon.
Yep.
Yeah, but that was to
I think-
facilitate the boost command.
Isn't it the longest summon, or is it the second longest
It,
summon?
it has to be.
No, Knights of the Round beats it by
Knights of the Round
I
is
think
the longest, I think.
5 seconds.
I could see that. All right.
Anyway.
But
So, yep, go ahead, Sora.
yeah, if they can shake things up a bit and not give me more of the same thing, I'll be happy. Pleasantly surprised. I'd like to be pleasantly surprised.
All right, Mama Cat. Tell us.
I'm pretty excited just as new content. I mean, even though I'm still quite new to this game, I've still done almost everything Stormblood has to offer, from maps to ultimate content to crafting to all of the beast tribes. I basically do everything this game has to offer, so I'm just excited for more stuff to do. So yeah, I would definitely say an 8.5 to 9.
Okay, and our friendly neighborhood STD, hype level.
Mine?
Yes,
5
sir.
out of 10.
Okay.
This guy.
No,
This
like,
guy.
Anybody
I've
surprised with him?
been playing this game long enough that I know that the formula is going to stay the same.
I
They'll
agree.
experiment with the relic once more, trying to figure out what's best to do. I wouldn't mind if they divided it into 2 separate parts, where you can do the relic this way, or you can do the relic this way. Those who complete challenging content get the relic faster than those who suck at the game and have to grind all day long for it.
Oh, you mean raid versus?
Not
Relic?
necessarily raid, more like on the lines of like they did with the relic in the first ARR, where you actually had to beat the 3 extreme primals and
Yeah, the
submit
challenge
your
of the
crap.
relic.
Yeah.
I missed
But-
that.
At the same time, you're gonna get your story. I'm hyped for the story. The raids are never difficult enough anymore since Creator, and I know they're not going to be difficult. So the only thing I'm going to be hyped for is whatever the next ultimate fight is going to be.
Yeah.
Content in general is stale. I mean, our dungeons are literally just corridors from one boss to the next. There's
They
no
do
variance.
feel like relics of an older game. I agree.
Yeah. They're
The
not
Realm
going to
Reborn?
change.
Dungeons were more interesting.
They
honestly.
were, but
They were boring
seen
as
the
shit, too.
form? Have you
I
seen
mean,
the
you
forms
guys
on the
remember
gameplay?
the Temple of Karn, right? There was puzzles in
Yeah,
there.
they nerfed that to
Yeah.
Final
well,
Sting doesn't kill you anymore.
Yeah, no.
They cater so much to the casuals that it
all
kills
right,
the fun out of the
Why?
game.
Don't use the C word. Don't use the C word.
We
I
just.
will use the C word.
This is Night One, dude. Stop pissing people off before they fucking get to know you.
I
God.
don't need to piss people off. People already know who I am.
Yeah, I will say he is infamous.
That's all, folks.
What about you, Reggie? Hype level?
So I think my hype level is kind of artificially inflated because this will be the first summer that I've had with the new expansions where I actually got some time off work and I'm not in school. So I'm sitting at around an 8 or a 9 because I don't know. I'm looking forward to going in as scholar and I don't know. I'm not probably gonna skip the cutscenes, but I am looking forward to the new fights and the 24-man raid and Eden, and I'm hopeful there's a part of me that's kind of like set expectations pretty low, like a Sharknado movie, because I already kind of know what to expect, you know. But you know, I'm fairly hype, and you know, being like a tactics loyalist, I'm excited. I'm excited that Dancer's coming in, and I loved what they showed with Gunbreaker and the 6-7 minute opening cinematic they showed. It was awesome. You know, the Final Fantasy 3 music, I agree with you, Sora, was kind of, you know, and I feel like Yoshi P and Square Enix have done a really good job at subverting my expectations, because of all the leaks that have come out. Kind of gave me this false expectation of like what was coming, and you know, because they've done so well at kind of like you know, subverting my expectation. I kind of got to give them credit for that.
I agree to an extent. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
I mean,
just got one thing. If you guys ask me what the hell's going on in the story and you skipped all the cutscenes, I'm just going to ignore you.
oh, I just listened to Happy's spoiler cast, brah.
God.
I just do the content.
Yeah, watch my cutscenes. You want to wait for my dungeon cutscene? You're going to wait for my dungeon cutscene.
Oh, I'm a nursing school,
All right,
man.
for the leveling gang, who's the cutscene skippers? Let's make a group real quick.
Heyo, right here.
Heyo, right here.
Let's make a fucking fire pit.
I'm a tank. I don't need you all to love me.
Yeah, pretty much. Eh? Oh, you're not a tank? I'm sorry for your luck. I get all my dungeon keys instantly. Bye.
Bye.
All right, fellas and lady. Next week we'll get together.
Wait a minute,
you know,
Toasty's a girl?
Shoot.
If
Yikes.
you know, if we get some good reception from the community, we'll keep doing this. And you know, next week we'll kind of talk about the MSQ. We'll talk about the predictions, what we like, what we don't like, and you know, maybe catch up Mama Cat and Toasty on the what's going on with everything.
I've watched 2 cutscenes in this game.
Well,
Which
it's
ones?
more
The
than
beginning
one.
of Coil and the beginning of Ultima.
Yeah,
Oh,
both cutscenes killing them.
Oh man.
all right. Does anybody have any closing statements?
Be
No.
be gentle in the comment section.
No way. Come at me, bro. I
Come
will
at
wreck you.
Him, take him.
You guys can go fight Sif. He's always looking for a fight.
Yeah, he is.
Yep.
We will
No blows.
read all your comments, and we do encourage the discussion. So, by all means,
No
go
blows.
ahead.
Are we calling this Misfortune? Is that what we're calling this?
I think that
Our
might
raid
be.
group's always been Misfortune.
Okay.
Have you seen the shit we've gone through?
Yeah.
Yeah, if your computer explodes every week.
It doesn't explode.
The
I
blue
just
train.
Did
overclocked.
last time, dude.
Hey,
It
you're running-
literally popped. It
Yeah,
literally
that was my own damn fault. Leaving the window open was a really bad idea that night.
You're like the blue screen god, dude.
It wasn't a blue screen. This was literally computer not turn on.
Yes, what the hell? I thought I had blue screens. What's your
Where-
excuse?
Where is this gonna be posted? I guess that's the main thing.
So I'm gonna post this on my YouTube channel, but like if there becomes like a niche for this, then I'm gonna.
I had a really good suggestion for a name.
Yeah, no. Oh, I was just about to say that. But yeah, when if this is we get some good reception, we'll make a YouTube channel. We'll all contribute to it, and
I feel sorry for these poor people.
also one of my viewers, he's a black mage over on Primal, said that we should call our podcast a Misfortunate Minute.
Well,
That's
yeah.
just
I
cheesy
agree.
as fuck.
No, it's not. I like it.
I like cheese though.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe
I like to
maybe
eat cheese.
maybe like a minute of misfortune.
Mm.
Nope. Misfortunate minute.
Toasty's just gonna get stuck on this, so
Misfortunate
let's
is
just
not-
ignore her opinion.
I like this guy.
I'm
is
not
a
sure
god
that's-
of puns. This guy is an absolute god when it comes to puns. so I'll take
Misfortunate's not a word. Though.
But yeah, is it grammatically
Yes, it is.
correct?
Does it have a word of meaning?
Misfortunate is not a word.
You're thinking of unfortunate. That's the word you're thinking.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a play on words.
Maybe
No,
that
no.
could just be the joke.
If a word if you can have a meaning behind anything, it could become a word. How do you think words get into the dictionary?
That's true.
This is true. Yeah.
There
I
is a
still
word
think
for that process. It's called coining, but you know.
Coining.
I like a minute of misfortune.
You say a minute, it feels more like an hour.
Yeah, I know, eh?
I think
That's
it's been longer
that's
than
because
that.
Sora has no expression in his voice when he talks.
Huh? Fuck you.
Actually,
What are you talking about?
Misfortune.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, yep. Well, this is it's been fun, and we'll do it again next week. Thanks.
we
should
should
call it-
live still?
So just call
Yeah,
it
we're-
Siphon Friend.
Siphon friends.
whatever.
That was Sora Bell on I think
Okay,
he's
so-
Genova.
Don't name me.
All
Should we
right.
sign out
Sign-
with our names? I
Oh,
don't know.
that's a good idea.
Bye.
All right, we'll start with Jabe.
We can do it next week.
All right.
Yeah.
all right.
Black.
Yeah.
Jay Black from Balmong.
I'm not. People know where I'm from.
Jinwoo from Gilgamesh, formerly Midgar Summer.
Don't talk about your old server. Jesus.
Stop interrupting people.
I'm done.
I said to.
Toast, you should cut in right now.
Yeah, you just cut in and out.
Well, that's just not important.
Well,
Alright,
we already
moving
knew that.
All right, Mama Cat lying on the floor is Dragoon Main from Sargatanas.
Yeah.
Sora
Look at-
Bell from Genova. And Fairy.
Into the wall.
And Fairy.
And Fairy.
Reggie Rage from Sargatanas. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks
Bye,
for
friend.
stopping by.
Bye.
One of us
Adios.
isn't here. They're probably dead.